Barbados, please welcome your candidate for St. George North, Mr. Grenville Phillps II.
Good night. My name is Grenville Phillps, and I am the founder of Solutions Barbados and a candidate for St. George North. First, I want to acknowledge God. We as a nation depend on Him. Our national anthem confirms that with Him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. Since we don't want Barbadians to be doubtful or fearful about the future, we have no intention of putting that relationship in jeopardy. So we plan to lead this nation in righteousness and humility. Leading in righteousness does not mean trying to avoid scandals. Scandals may come as we try to help others because some people may misinterpret our motives. But we intend to lead in doing right things. We will walk humbly before God. That means that we are not demanding to be your lords, but offering to be your servant leaders. A relevant question is, what do you intend for those who do not believe in God or who are part of the LGBT community or who worship something else? Our answer is that because we are a Christian country, they are equally entitled to participate in Barbados' economy without persecution. And any who persecute a minority group will find themselves outside of the protection of the law. However, let me make one thing very clear. Christians are being persecuted in other countries just for being Christians or giving their biblical opinion. Because this is a Christian country, any minority group has a right to politely offer their opinion on any topic without persecution. However, others also have a right to politely disagree with them without being persecuted or disqualified from participating in Barbados' economy. There may come a time when the majority of Barbadians no longer wish to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Well, then we will experience the persecution that we now only read about. However, until that time comes, me and my house will faithfully serve the Lord to the end. Many ask me, why do you have to talk about God? Well, I am unashamedly a structural engineer. I am unashamedly a husband and a father. And I am unashamedly a Christian. That is just who I am. Let me also say that for me, it is an absolute honor to be associated with each of these highly competent persons who also love God, as we offer ourselves to serve you. Later this evening, Scott will describe how we plan to cause the economy to soar with our proven economic plan. It is a 4-point plan comprising lowering taxes, improving the management of government services, depoliticizing public services, and eliminating corruption. Our plan is not some theoretical, untried plan, but it is proven. It is proven that when a country reduces its tax rates, it takes in more revenue. It is proven that better managed public services result in less wastage and a higher level of customer satisfaction. It is proven that a politicized civil service can ruin a country, and it is proven that corruption results in severe austerity for most citizens. So if all of this is proven, then why won't the established political parties follow the proven plan. Because it is also proven that politicians are prepared to ruin a national economy for the sake of their development philosophy. That is essentially what happened in Guyana, and it is where we are currently headed. Just to remind you, Guyana was one of the richest countries in the Caribbean. Barbadians used to leave Barbados and find work in Guyana. However, once the politicians surrendered the Guyanese people to an IMF program, within 1 year, there was a 70% devaluation of the dollar, doubling of the income tax rates, a ruined economy, mass immigration of professionals, and 75% of the population in poverty. In the aftermath, Guyana's citizens learned 3 simple lessons the very hard way. 1, politicians rarely tell citizens the true state of a poorly performing economy. 2, industries are not toys for politicians to share with their friends. And 3, politicians are prepared to ruin a national economy for the sake of their development philosophies. Be very careful who you choose to vote for in this election, Barbados. Tonight, I want to specifically address corruption and mismanagement. What is corruption? Let me explain this with an example from another country, not Barbados. If a person is building houses for the government of another country, then who really pays him? It is the taxpayers of that country that pays for the work. Therefore, it is important not to waste taxpayers' money by overpaying for goods and services. So if a contractor agrees to do some work for, say, $2 million, a corrupt official will tell him, if you want this job, then you must sign a contract to do the work for not $2 million, but $3 million. And when you get paid, then you must give me $1 million. Alternatively, a corrupt contractor will say to the corrupt official, if you give me this job, then I will bill the government for $3 million, and I will give you $1 million because I can do the job for $2 million. Now, every political party in opposition normally accuses the party in power of at least 2 things: high corruption and gross mismanagement. The Democratic Labour Party, when they were in opposition, regularly accused the BLP of corruption and mismanagement. When the Democratic Labour Party were elected to govern, they attracted the same regular criticism of corruption and mismanagement. Why don't they simply address the corruption and mismanagement if they are both so concerned about it? Why does it appear that any act intended to address corruption has windows of escape or loopholes? A former Chief Justice noted that our Prevention of Corruption Act was seriously deficient. If it were actually used, he stated, one would be able to drive a cart and 10 donkeys through it. That is what he said. The Barbados Labour Party recently published their draft anti-corruption legislation, and after reading a few pages, I had to put it down. I then tried to design some foolproof legislation that would protect corrupt persons, and this is what I came up with. First, I will establish a separate court. I do not want any of my boys going through the normal court process, since they may get locked up. So I would establish a separate court and call it an integrity commission. Then I would make it appear independent, so I would add a lawyer from the Bar Association and a representative from the church. Since they are 2 independent persons, I would want twice that number to overrule them, so I would select 4 of my own people. I would let the Integrity Commission busy themselves doing nothing. However, if they ever came across someone who had his hand in the cookie jar with crumbs around his mouth and with half a cookie sticking out of his mouth, then I would not want any of the independent members of this commission looking at that incriminating evidence. Not at all. If the evidence against him was strong and damning, then I would not even want the Director of Public Prosecutions or the police investigating. So I would appoint a special investigator who must not be a member of the police to investigate the fellow and determine whether there was enough evidence to charge him. Therefore, the investigator simply has to appear busy for a few weeks, declare that there was not enough evidence to support a charge, and my boy goes free. That is perfectly foolproof. Guess what, Barbados? The Barbados Labour Party's proposed legislation appears very similar. They have an integrity commission with 2 independent members, and the other 4 are appointed by the Governor-General after consulting with political leaders. The Integrity Commission then appoints an investigative officer to investigate fellows with damning evidence for the purpose of determining whether there is sufficient evidence to charge the accused. The Barbados Labour Party's plan also notes that no investigation can be carried out once a person has retired from public life for 2 years. That is the ultimate loophole. The Barbados Labour Party can improve their plan by allowing the Integrity Commission to be filled by non-political persons, proposed by professional associations. Why can't they do that? And why can't the apparent amnesty after a person has retired for 2 years? Why are these glaring apparent weaknesses in the Act? The Barbados Labour Party's plan notes that they plan to fine people $500,000. This appears to be a deterrent. However, it will not make a difference if the investigative officer simply declares that there's not enough evidence to charge an individual accused with his hand in the cookie jar and crumbs wrong his mouth. Politically protected individuals tend to have an expectation that they will be protected if they get caught. So what is our solution? Well, when bribes are added to the cost of government services, the public pays more for them. So who really pays the bribe? We do. Now they say that there are high levels of corruption. So if we have overpaid for goods and services because of bribes, then we want that money back with interest. Therefore, for our first 3 months in office, every person who has paid or received a bribe must repay the full value of the bribe. That should take care of the principal owed and the interest, since both the giver and the receiver must pay. After 3 months, we enact whistleblower legislation where the whistleblower is rewarded with the full value of the bribe. However, a fine upon conviction is 10 times the value of the bribe. So if a $100,000 bribe was given, then the fine on conviction is $1 million, and the whistleblower gets $100,000. There are no loopholes there. Let me address a related topic, crime. In the Solutions Barbados administration, every offense will carry a fine of 10 times the value of the offense. Therefore, if someone stole a $700 cell phone, then he must pay a $7,000 fine on conviction. After stealing a few cell phones, he will eventually learn that it's a lot cheaper to buy a cell phone. If he can't afford to pay the fine, then we will find work for him to do. in managing Barbados' infrastructure. He can patch the potholes, he can seal cracks, he can paint walls, and such like. If he will not show up for work, then he can reside at Dodds, where he will be taken to the work site on time. Staying on crime, you may ask, what will we do about guns? Well, we will pass an effective law, not these loophole laws, an effective law where the importer, the distributor, and the renter of a gun are charged with the same offense as the final user. Why? Because they are like accessories to the crime. What do they expect the person to do with the gun when they rent it? Do they expect him to use it to do some construction work or to cook? No. The fellow intends to rob or rape or commit murder. We do not think that importers, distributors, and renters of guns will want to risk being jointly charged with the final user of the gun. So they will likely get out of the gun business, either voluntarily or by residing at Dodds with the final user. Either way, they are both off the streets. I want to address the next big accusation, that of mismanagement. There is a customer-focused management standard that can solve most, if not all, of our nation's management issues. And that is the ISO 9001 quality management system. Many countries have benefited from it over the past 20 years. We plan to implement it in all government services. While this may sound nice, however, it does not help anyone right now because we have no authority while we are the government in waiting. However, it may be possible to influence change by simply being part of the political process. And therefore, I'm going to try something this evening. I recently had to visit the Queen Elizabeth Hospital regularly, and clearly it needs better management. Anyone who visits the Queen Elizabeth Hospital can clearly see that. So let me put the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Board and their CEO on notice. Why them? The board should instruct the Chief Executive Officer to implement the ISO 9000 Quality Management Standard, or the CEO should recommend to the board that they should implement the ISO 9001 Quality Management Standard. So I am speaking tonight to the board and the Chief Executive Officer of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Manage the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in accordance with the ISO 9001 Quality Management System, or your contracts will not be renewed in a Solutions Barbados administration. Now, if you are unsure what the ISO 9001 Quality Management System is, then you are welcome to attend a free public town hall meeting this Wednesday, next week, the 29th of November at 6 o'clock in the evening at Combermere School Hall, where it will be explained to you in detail. So send some persons and come yourselves. You will learn exactly what it is, how it can benefit public workers and everyone else who uses government services, and how you can start to implement it in your organization. At the end of the meeting, you will have the training and tools to start implementing the system the next day, so you will be without excuse. Do not delay in providing the public with the relief that they deserve when it is within your power to do so. We have all suffered too long, both employees and the public. Now, the Sanitation Services Authority. People have had to wait for weeks to get their garbage collected. Why are so many trucks off the road? please implement the ISO 9001 quality management system. Come to the same training seminar. If you do not implement the systems so that the people can get relief from poor management practices, then you have received fair warning. The Barbados Water Authority. I understand the lack of water to rural parishes, I understand. But raw sewage running in the streets of Worthing, raw sewage running in the streets of Worthing, come on! Are you serious? I am calling on the board and the CEO to implement the ISO 9001 quality management system, or do not expect your contracts to be renewed in a Solutions Barbados administration. The Transport Board. Why are people waiting 90 minutes for a bus? Come on! You need to better manage our resources. The National Petroleum Corporation, the Licensing Authority, the Barbados Revenue Authority, senior management, you are all on notice. I am calling on you to start implementing the ISO 9001 quality management system for the benefit of your long-suffering employees and the long-suffering public, or your contracts will not be renewed in a Solutions Barbados administration. Now, I am well aware that there will be some fellows on these boards who will ask, who is this Grenville Phillps? Why do we need to listen to him? Why can't we keep managing these employees and resources as badly as we have? Why do we need to improve anything at all? Who is this Grenville Phillps? Well, please tell him for me that he will be the next Prime Minister of Barbados after the upcoming general election. Tell him that for me. I'm trying to help all of you. Finally, I want to briefly address the cultural industries. That should include those fine artists who we heard earlier. Now, you will hear a lot of long talk about the cultural industries from those who like to talk rather than do. We are a party of doers, every one of us. Our singers and musicians and craft persons, what do they really want? They want exposure, which can lead to them earning a living. They want the opportunity to fully participate in Barbados' economy without hindrance. Let me try them and help them out right now. I do a lot of traveling around the Caribbean region. When I am in the departure lounge of our airport, I normally hear only American-type popular music. I have never heard Barbadian music there. I have complained several times for many years, but they claim that they can do nothing. I am normally told that the higher-ups have to make the decision to play local music. If I'm going to Trinidad, then as soon as I enter the aircraft, there is the pleasant and calming steel pan music from Trinidad. Why can't we showcase our Barbadian artists in our own airport? Why must we only promote American artists and their music? No, I have no objection to the American artists, but why must we promote them in our airport? Why don't I hear Nakovia, Nisha Woods, Gauzy, Arturo Tapin, Nicholas Branker, Gabby, and any of our talented Barbadian performers at our national airport? If we don't promote them, who will? Will airports in the US and Europe promote Barbadian artists in their airport? Not likely. Therefore, we need to promote our own artists in our own airport, preferably with a banner at the bottom of the arrivals and departures screen identifying who the performer is at the time. Why is that so difficult? Well, let me give the board and the Chief Executive Officer of the Grant Lee Adams International Airport Incorporated fair warning. Either play 100% Barbadian artists in our airport or provide the public with a reasonable excuse of why you cannot play local music in our airport but are instead somehow forced to promote American artists. If you cannot manage a simple thing like playing Barbadian music in Barbados' airport, then why should we trust you to manage more complex things like managing an airport? Given the length of time it normally takes to get things done, let me try to speed things up a bit. If I pass through the airport next week and you have not given the public of Barbados a reasonable response, then start sending out your resumes, because your contracts will not be renewed in a Solutions Barbados administration. You have fair warning. In the event that some board member wants to know who is Solutions Barbados, why do we have to listen to them? Why can't we keep our Barbadian artists down and keep promoting the American and European ones in Barbados' airport? Who is Solutions Barbados? Tell him that they will form the government in the next general election. So you better start listening to them now. Cue the music.